Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Bottom left hand corner, we got Nesh starting as the yellow Terran. Up right hand corner, we got LancerX starting as the red Protoss. This is going to be on Knockout, which might be an appropriate name for this map, being that Nesh has got 2 games under his belt. This is a best of 5, so theoretically he's in a win knockout condition for to push LancerX and move on to the grand final. LancerX fighting for his life. This has been a great series thus far. Both of these guys have shown us some really impressive games. Last match was fat. All of these games have been incredible, honestly, in my opinion. Knockout could be a really interesting one, though, at cross position. Just as a reminder, this is the special aspect of Knockout where you've got this inverted ridge here, where inverted ridge, it's a nice little valley that makes it a little bit harder to harass the front. What I do think this does is it makes it a little bit more Terran favored, because Protoss doing early game assails on from the ramp side, you can see where you get misfire chances, so bunkers are much stronger here, siege tanks are much stronger on the 2 base position for Terran, and it is a mineral only high ground, but you can see where it's also a defensive high ground where you can fight off encroachment from multiple locations. I do think the one advantage for Protoss, though, is you've got kind of an enclosed space here, you've got this ramp and this breach point here, and if you hold basically this area and this area against vulture incursions, you put yourself in a pretty good position to go up to 4 base potentially. It's just you gotta play the game from there. Terran feels like Terran, trying to think what the score has been overall. We haven't seen a lot of games TVP on Knockout, or PVT if we want to flip the script. Anyway, it looks like we've got a barracks and a refinery drop. Nesh going to go ahead and scoot out and try to get eyes. I think this is a particularly important map to get initial information, because I do think because of the handicap of that gutter, it almost encourages Protoss to go Nexus a little bit more. It feels like it encourages 12 Nexus. Actually, I almost feel like it might encourage a fast command center with bunker support as well. Interesting lineup of barracks depot here, by the way, from Nesh. In the meantime, LancerX is going to go ahead and scoot out, check bottom right. We know, though, on the opposite side, it looks like it's going to be Gateway Cybernetics core. Second pylon. Are we going to see that initial Zealot created? Looks like we're going to save to go ahead and get a Dragoon first instead. Additional pylon Dragoon. SCV going to go top left and then bottom right. Going to see a probe kind of doing this similar scouting pattern. Is that going to give... Unfortunately, with the timing of this, I don't think it provides enough security either direction to know where either player went. We've got the factory well underway here from Nesh and the 2 Marines holding on the low ground. This gets really scary scouting from here on out, actually. Especially for LancerX, because the probe, when it goes across this gutter line, you have to dive really deep to get any form of information. And on top of that, with the way these Marines are positioned, you run into the gutter and you're just getting assailed near instantaneously, and it becomes very challenging. The Dragoon actually holding the corner. That's kind of an odd placement for that Dragoon, honestly, and it looks like it's going to be 1 Dragoon gateway into Nexus. Dragoon doing damage there, and you can see where the probe, I don't know that he got a look at that Nexus. The Marine's actually scooting forward, now going to hold that bridge line. The Dragoon going to scoot forward, and I'm wondering if it's going to take some work for his Vulture away, by the way. Here from Nesh, we do have the command center being built underneath this. Lancer now in the dark, so he's going to drop a second gateway very quickly, theoretically. Off this build order, is he going to drop some more pylons to provide a pylon wall? He has to be careful, because you need something to provide a little bit of support. The 2 Dragoons kind of fluttering out. 1 Dragoon going to go ahead and block the ramp. It looks like Lancer realizing, you know what, maybe I'm not going to be able to hold this after all against this Vulture. Okay, now making his way in, is going to get 3 shots off, and the Vulture going to pull away for Nesh because he doesn't want to have to worry about losing this Vulture and potentially 3 mines. It's actually really important to make sure you got that Vulture and mine out rapidly, again, because of that 4 Nexus possibility off holding not a lot of ground. Early probe transfer there from LancerX, so a few probes scooting around a little bit rapidly. We have that bunker in place with Marines and a siege tank being constructed elsewise. think the Vulture will be primarily concerned about tapping that 12 o'clock base with a mine, because that's where you got that additional gas, and it's the 3 gas with Protoss where sometimes it can be interesting. Nesh pulling a little interesting fake FD something or other here with the Vultures and Marines. That'll be interesting. I think he just wants to get better mine placement. Got a bit of a mine on the ramp edge there. Oh, Lancer, no! Okay, this could make this stronger, actually. Because 3 Marines will a siege tank will beat a Dragoon heads up. Well, never mind, there's more Dragoons back behind here. Robotics just dropping on the front. And this is very brave from Nesh. Nesh going to the high ground with this. Dragoon spotting a lot of this, and I think Nesh just maybe sacrifice some of these troops depending on how these Dragoons maneuver. And now he just wants to try to get the best trade he possibly can. Yeah, all this to get that mine up near that 3rd. That's honestly, I don't know that maybe that's worth it. That's crazy though from Nesh. 3 Marines, a potential siege tank. Well, the mines will provide some retreat potentially for the siege tank before that observer's out. But Nesh still lingering nearby. It looks like he wants to contest that 3rd as long as possible. And is just going to keep reinforcing. We have a probe a bit in no man's land. Lancer going for the... this is crazy. He's going to maybe set up here at the 3 o'clock instead of the mineral-only high ground or the 12 o'clock. Probe gets wiped off on the corner. Nesh going to scoot in, and Nesh all of a sudden doing a great job delaying. So, median job delaying there. He did delay it a chunk of time, but not like a huge chunk of time, right? So 3rd base at the mineral only. Now the next question for Nesh is, will the base be dropped at the 12 o'clock? The 3 o'clock feels like a bit of a risky grab from Lancer. It looks like he's got a shuttle and a Reaver, by the way, to go ahead and start moving out onto the map and press things back. Nesh with all that aggression, a little bit light on siege tanks back at home base, is dropping a 3rd factory at the corner. He's got some turrets to go ahead and provide some defense, but losing a lot of vision and map control. Is going to be able to sneak in a mine there at the 3 o'clock. Let's see if he can swing around and get that mine at the 12 o'clock as well. Not going to be able to, is going to get a probe, it looks like, on that edge. And going to drop another mine to maybe... this is kind of interesting here. Daring some units to come back to go ahead and defend that Nexus. That it'll take a really long time for these Vultures to kill this Nexus. But the fact is if LancerX doesn't draw Dragoons back, eventually it will happen. Do we have any additional mines? Just the 3 Dragoons. In the meantime, the shuttle pressing in, getting pushed back by that turret. This would be a suicide attack from Lancer. Although, does Nesh have siege? Sometimes Nesh misses siege in the mid game for some reason. I don't know why that is, but it just seems to happen to him. Could take pot shots with the vision across that edge and maybe soften up the bunker and barracks. In the meantime, 2 Vultures are sitting nearby to maybe sweep to that 12 o'clock to check it. I think if Lancer was going to go for that quick 4th, now would be the moment to do so. It looks like instead he's going to sit on 3 bases and go up to the heavier gateway count. Siege is finished now if it wasn't before. And Nesh gonna want to go ahead and maybe move out with those siege tanks. It looks like he unsieged them, drew back, and Lancer gonna pull his space away. This now can sometimes become the contested base for Terran. At the high ground, is Nesh already building? He is building a command center to potentially float out to that mineral only. Now keep in mind that just provides additional Vulture support. It doesn't really speed up siege tank production because it's not providing additional gas. We do have a probe at the 12 o'clock. The Vulture's speeding that direction. And they are, in fact, going to catch that probe. I think LancerX was trying to play halvesies here, because oftentimes off 3 bases, you'll go up to 9 gateways. He was trying to send another probe out to potentially grab that 4th base, and instead was kind of surging to like a median 7 gateways, feeling that Nesh wasn't going to go to a heavier factory count to contest it. And I think that was also a good play, considering that it's a mineral only at the short ground to provide some support. But right now LancerX doing a good job. Needs to get the Dragoons coming a little bit late in position. These 4 Dragoons going to do their best to try to push these forces back. Nesh sweeping up with the Dragoons. No mines planted as of yet. Really hunting these Dragoons down. And unfortunately that If these Dragoons had come out maybe 5 seconds earlier, this would be a much more heavily contested additional base here from Nesh. Instead, Nesh going to be floated out otherwise. 12 o'clock base is now in production. Keep in mind, it's the same thing opposite side. Another forge and a cannon being dropped there at the mineral only to go ahead and provide anti-vulture support. Because if Nesh fills in with the larger factory count, what he can do, which it looks like he's doing now, is he could just pump out more vultures. And there's a lot of lanes still to run through. And right now, LancerX hasn't really sat troops. He hasn't sat troops here and here and here to kind of, and as soon as he gets pylons along that edge, as soon as you get pylons, it gets a little bit easier to cover. But if he's going to go for this 3 o'clock, which he's kind of maneuvering as though he's going to do, and as long as he doesn't blockade down here, yeah, the vulture's going to be able to scoot all the way in. They're getting all, so we got some vultures going into the main, and one vulture just hanging there at the natural expansion. Nesh actually up in workers, also up in supply, which is not the situation you want to be in. Also able to spot the Stargate timing, which is magnificent for him. Zealot was able to clean up the damage, but this vulture already 6 worker kills. Is he going to get a 7th? Not sure whether they got a 7th in that space or not. Bad eyes on my part. LancerX playing very army light right here. I don't know that Nesh is heads up on that. +1 weapons about to finish for him. A very late +1 weapons. Wonder if that is calculated though, again, based on kind of the map architecture and the lateness of that 3rd gas. He is dropping a lot of factories. Now keep in mind, if he grabs the 9 o'clock or grabs the 6 o'clock, then he can start tacking on the additional machine shops to fill in that army. But in the short term, he does have to play a bit more vulture heavy because of that lack of a 3rd gas. 3rd gas is in LancerX hands now at the 12 o'clock. It looks like he's going to go into arbiters. But right this second, he's down in supply. I am curious how much of that supply is... See, it looks like a good chunk of that supply is siege tanks, though. And the positioning of this single cannon not going to defend the workers. So Nesh maintaining a worker lead and continuing to get some good disruption with the vultures as they're skittering about. And I got to chastise LancerX a little bit here. I feel like this is an okay map. Okay, now he's starting to fill in the pylons. I feel like it's not a ultra challenging map to kind of funnel. So, okay, now he's got units here and he's got a few units here. I feel like it's not ultra difficult to fan things out a little bit to deal with vultures here and at least hold the 4 bases. When you start talking about moving towards that 3rd, then it gets a little bit more dicey. That being said, Nesh is going to get this 6 o'clock base in position fairly quickly. It looks like we're still just on 4 gateways here for Lancer. He's tacking on a 2nd gateway and he wants to go, tried to go carriers multiple games here. He's going to try to go carriers again, hoping that Nesh is going to play more passively, which I would be a little bit shocked if he did, considering the early stage of this map. So clearing out that 3 o'clock as though he's going for additional expansions. This actually gets challenging for Lancer. Does have the 2 shuttles, by the way, with some Reavers and some other units, but really to kind of threaten the... You kind of want to throw out attacks and be all over the map. And right now, without Observer Discipline, running headlong into some mines. And I don't know that Nesh is going to be all that concerned, although he is losing some workers here to these Reavers and Dragoons to the south. Might want to have to lift this off and just pull away. Ooh, some siege tanks getting cleaned up. Just gonna siege up and wipe out those troops. Thing is Nesh has not played all that passively at other stages of this series. I don't know that he got the comm set to see the carriers though. We do have the initial 2 being constructed. But this, and he's also trying to grab a 3rd. So Lancer just hoping that Nesh is going to play passively. I do think there are other Terran on the scene that would play passively in this situation. Nesh is not one of them. Yeah, he's starting to move out onto the map, and those 2 carriers are a very, very long way away. Lancer might be able to, he's showing an Arbiter. We have a little bit of clutter here at the 6 o'clock. I think Nesh might be happy to exchange a base at the 6 o'clock for the 12 o'clock and mineral only, and the high ground positioning in the midst of this. So yeah, that's going to do some drop. And yeah, Nesh saying, okay, yeah, let's go base trade. Base trade time, baby. And just gonna maybe cycle some reinforcements over to deal with what is left elsewise. By the way, this is a fantastic push point as well. But just gonna climb up to the high ground. The carrier's even gonna be done by the time this Nexus is dead. One thing though is I'm not sure how critical this Nexus is if Lancer can get workers to that 3 o'clock. It looks like several probes are making the way out. They're going back towards the main, however. Now it's not much of a operation to take out the 12 o'clock, but also you've got this huge siege tank and vulture count that is pressing into the natural. Lancer also trying to proceed with that attack along that southern corner. He's going to get the command center. This is actually a lot of Dragoons. This turns into a base race. I don't know that those 2 carriers are going to be sufficient. Zealots all over those siege tanks, though. Nesh might be in a bit of trouble in the space of this, because this is still a lot of Dragoons, and they're getting a lot of work done, and Nesh a little bit spread out with his attack force. But he's moving a lot to clear out that 12 o'clock. That natural's going to drop. Even though he's losing the mineral only, he just has to draw troops back behind the wall point, and unfortunately I think his rally is right here, so he's walking his siege tanks straight up to their demise. We do have one siege tank here up on the high ground. The bunker's empty, keep in mind. And I think Nesh it feels like this is a base race scenario. And the 2 carriers, are they on the field? Yeah, we got 2 carriers, already took a chunk of damage. And unfortunately for Lancer, I don't know that he's going to be able to hold these carries for very long. Nesh is still mining at his natural, has a little bit of minerals left at his main. Lancer's starting to run the troops back, but he's already taken huge losses, is down on supply. Will at least have +1 air weapons, which is something, and he's working on +1 armor. We've got a lot of Goliaths that are filling in as well. And Nesh still has a very beefy army out on the field. I think he can re-grab some territory, and we still have some mines that look like they've gone undetected. That one actually 15 damage. Zealot kind of wandering top left and top right. Nesh backing up for the moment has filled up a lot of supply. These 2 poor Dragoons gonna headlong. Carriers are making the way across. I think they recognize they got to get some sort of economic damage done. LancerX distance mining to the natural. Nesh, this is kind of interesting play from Nesh. He wipes out the natural. He wipes out the main, recognizes that, okay, distance mining is all you can do because we're at the 17-minute mark, which means your main is gone. Lancer tried to link up the army with the carriers. Instead, he's going to end up losing a carrier for that effort. And I think that's going to be GG. Nesh's supply is massive here. I think he's got enough Goliaths to deal with what else. And even if he didn't, the siege tanks might just be able to walk underneath and wipe everything else out in a bit of short timing here. Also, Nesh could, in the midst of this, wander out. Looks like he's actually... Oh my gosh. Poor Nesh. He's got a problem where his army is actually clogged. So, small mercies here for LancerX. Gonna run back out. I think it's just these 3 characters right now. Or these 3 carriers for LancerX right this second. And here comes a large grouping of Goliaths. Another mercy is that +1 armor is going to complete, which will help at least keep those interceptors afloat. But if the carriers are getting wiped out, that will not help at all. And LancerX, upon seeing that number of Goliaths, does not feel up to the task. Nesh takes the game, will advance to the grand finals. I was honestly expecting, I think if the bracket was a little different, I would not be surprised to see LancerX in the grand finals against Nesh. But that being said, it's going to be a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.